Based on our audit work and according to ICE officials, kids who do not appear for court are considered at higher risk for trafficking, for exploitation, for forced labor. Hundreds of thousands. For example, do you think the Social Security Administration agency is now checking all those numbers and spitting out ballots that are bad? No. They can't even track the kids, the minor kids. One ICE officer expressed concern with not being able to take action in a case involving a minor whose sponsor claimed the minor was in an inappropriate relationship with her husband. Sick! Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have lost hundreds of thousands of kids coming across the border. What we're going to read in this document is going to come across as just an update, final management alert officially. But what we see is human trafficking, in particular kids. Hundreds of thousands coming across and being lost. You see, this is the memo that is going to a bunch of people, and ICE, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, all listed here. It's from the Office of the Inspector General, a so-called independent entity that's doing an investigation. And the subject is a big problem, all right? ICE cannot monitor all the unaccompanied migrant children that are being released from government custody, and it's a big problem. They say, attached is our final management alert, informs you of an urgent issue that we discovered during an ongoing audit and the actions that ICE has taken to address these issues. Specifically, we found that ICE cannot always monitor the location or the status of the kids who were released from custody. Now, your office concurred with our recommendations, and based on the information, we consider this recommendation open. Now, here is the background on what happened. They tell us, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, aka ICE, could not monitor the location, so we don't know where they are, or the status of all the unaccompanied migrant children, or initiate removal proceedings as needed. So we have a bunch of UCs, going to be the unaccompanied kids, just think about them as children, who are being trafficked across the border and ending up in unknown locations with unknown statuses. During our ongoing audit to monitor the location of the kids who were released or transferred, we learned that ICE, our government, transferred more than 448,000 kids. So one government entity transferred almost 500,000 kids, which is basically the entire population of Wyoming. About 500,000 people live there, plus or minus. So an entire state's worth of kids go from ICE custody, theoretically, to Health and Human Services custody over these years, 2019 to 2023. Now, however, ICE was not able to account for the location of all UCs, the kids, who were released by Health and Human Services and who did not appear as scheduled in court. So ICE has reported, now these numbers are insane, more than 32,000 kids who didn't show up to court from fiscal year 2019 to 2023. Now that number is just what we know, because we're going to back into that number and we're going to see it's probably much bigger than that. Now, additionally, even though Health and Human Services is responsible for the care of the kids, ICE did not always even notify them when they failed to appear in immigration court after release from custody. So they don't show up. Nobody knows. ICE enforcement officers at only 1 of 8 field offices that we visited even attempted to locate these kids. So 7 out of 8 offices are like, they're just gone, dude. They're just been, they're in somebody's home. Who knows? ICE also did not serve a notice to appear, which would be like your order to show up in court. You get a traffic ticket. It says show up in court on this time, right? That's your notice to appear. Doesn't even give them a notice to appear in after their release from custody, as is required under the law. So they released a bunch of people, didn't give them a notice to appear, so they're gone. As of May of this year, ICE had not served notices to appear on more than 291,000 kids, who therefore do not yet have an immigration court date. So almost 300,000 people are just kind of kids lost in the immigration system, released by the government, no notice to appear, didn't tell them they didn't show up to the next court date. 7 out of 8 offices aren't even trying to find them again. It's like hundreds of thousands of kids. Now, these issues occurred in part because ICE does not have an automated process for sharing information between their offices about those who don't show up to court. Additionally, all of this, they know this is happening, right? It's not like, oh my gosh, we forgot to give them a notice to appear. So they're enabling it. Additionally, ICE has not developed a formal policy or process to follow up on minors who did not appear in court because the kids are just gone. They don't want to go find those kids. You know where those kids are? Has limited oversight for monitoring, and they don't even have the resources to go find them either. So they say, look, this is urgent, right? Because we're talking about kids kids, hundreds of thousands who are missing, and nobody knows where they are. They came across the border, they're gone. ICE must take immediate action to ensure the safety of the minor kids residing in the United States, like now. Based on our audit work and according to ICE officials, kids who do not appear for court are considered at higher risk for trafficking, for exploitation, for forced labor. Hundreds of thousands. Although we identified more than 32,000 kids who did not appear for their court date, so they're gone, right? Like clearly. That number may have been much larger had ICE actually issued the notices to appear to over 291,000 other minors. Okay, so we've identified 32,000 kids who got a notice and didn't show up. So a bunch of people did get notices. A bunch of people showed up. 32,000 of them got notices and didn't show up. 291,000, so you could add it to that number, didn't even get the notices. So we've got over 300,000 kids who are just not showing up, gone. And by their own report, trafficking, exploitation, and forced labor. It's sick. By not issuing notices to appear to all UCs, ICE limits its chances of having contact with the kids when they're released, which reduces the opportunity to even verify their safety, which is all by design, obviously. It's like, oh, perfect. It's like a kid's factory. They're just coming across the border, hand over fist. Whoever the new Epstein is, or maybe Epstein, is still probably serving a bunch of people, all of this. It's disgusting. Now, without an ability to monitor the location or the status of these minors, ICE has no assurances that minors are safe from trafficking, exploitation, or forced labor. Well done. So here's some more background. Now, ICE enforces immigration to preserve national security. Yeah, right. And public safety. Now, within ICE, we protect the homeland by arresting and removing individuals who undermine our safety. Now, this is a problem. We talk about people who have not attained 18 years of age. They've got no parents. They've got no legal guardian in the country. Once migrants, including kids, are released from custody, ICE is responsible for them. Now, after Homeland apprehends minors, they are generally transferred to ICE. They're responsible. Now, here are the number of minors that are being transferred every year. And look at these. Whew, wow. Okay, so when Trump was the president, minors who were released were 67,000. Then COVID hit. Okay, nobody was coming across the border then, so the numbers cut down to 15,000. Then we see Biden takes over 2021. Look at those numbers, man. It's insane. They just opened it right up. 120,000 kids, 127,000 kids, 117,000 kids coming across. They're transferred into the custody of Health and Human Services. They're responsible for protecting them now, which is an insane amount of people, okay? Just think about that. The government here has, just by this count alone, has 400,000 kids we got to take care of. It's like an entire state of Wyoming. And these are the people that are accounted for at the federal level. Okay, a bunch of people are slipping through the cracks and going into the state care. Now, although they're responsible for the care of these, ICE retains responsibility for their immigration cases. There's juvenile coordinators. Nobody knows where they are. So ICE cannot monitor them. They say in 2008, Congress mandated policies to ensure that minors are protected from traffickers. Well, don't close the border and they won't traffic them across it. In December 2023, they implemented new guidance to promote consistency. Per the new guidance, if a minor fails to appear in court, they must recheck his address. Well, did he get the letter? In coordination, oh, well, he didn't get the letter. We got the wrong address. You put the wrong number there. OPLA officials further explained that it should include, they should coordinate with Health and Human Services and try to find them. But despite this, we found that they can't find these people. Even though the OPLA issued new guidance to find these people and improve coordination, they didn't even follow the guidance. They're like, can you please make these changes and this will be better? They said, no, we're good. We actually like losing hundreds of thousands of kids every year. It serves our clientele. We conducted site visits at 4 ICE locations across the country where the guidance was issued. Can you please implement these policies? We observed no change in local procedures at all. We met with the personnel at 10 field offices, including some virtually. Officers at only 1 location said that they ever attempted to find these kids. Now, ICE did not even alert always HHS when they didn't show up. They just didn't show up to court. They didn't tell Health and Human Services. According to an ICE official, they're not required to tell them. So headquarters staff noted that they were not made aware of failed court appearances. Although they have an electronic message inbox to inform them, they're unaware if anybody's even using them. Nobody cares about the kids. It's like literally, well, whatever. They didn't show up. Tell them. They don't want to know that they didn't show up. They got to go find them. And said, despite the new process, this official said that they didn't actually coordinate on any of this stuff. Finally, ICE has not served all minors with notices to appear at all. Serving minors, these kids, with notices to appear that are properly filed with the DOJ initiates this process. But as of May 2024, ICE had not served any court paperwork or scheduled a court date for more than 291,000 minors. They could not serve them on all of them. It's insane. Like, how are you going to serve 300,000 people with, serve them with documents? At one location we visited, 84% of the 41,000 minors in the local area, 84% had not even been given court dates to initiate immigration proceedings. It's crazy. So every time they come out, immigration's fine. Look, there's 300,000 kids who are just gone. Nobody knows where they are. ICE does not not have an automated process for this. Further, ICE has limited oversight for monitoring the minors, has not developed a formal process. Okay, well, they didn't show up in court. They said that they would. They promised to appear. Well, they wouldn't fill out documentation and be dishonest on it. Well, they sign a notice to appear on many of these. Okay, up here, there were 32,000 people who signed a notice to appear, show up to court. They didn't. So do you think that little form or that little promise is going to prevent 32,000 people from voting in an election where they're not allowed to vote? No. Give me a break, right? So they know what they're doing. As we noted in a previous audit, ICE doesn't have the adequate staffing, which can limit officers' time and ability to check on the location of immigration case status of migrants. You wouldn't need all of these immigration agents if you just closed the border and you didn't have 300,000 kids coming across that are now missing. ICE cannot accurately or effectively share court information, unaccompanied kids. ICE does not even have an accurate process for sharing information. When a minor fails to appear, they update their system, but ICE didn't even include the UCs that failed to appear in court even after they got their notices. We conducted data analysis and we determined that only 28,000 kids who did not appear for their court date, what was their numbers? But there's other numbers, 4,000 more who did not appear. And so the data is just totally unreliable. All right, so what's the point? Neither EROs or any one of these other systems automatically notifies them, and due to a lack of an automated information sharing process, it's just a disaster. At one field office, one attorney created a spreadsheet. ICE officials in the field and headquarters, there's too many. You can't manage 291,000 spreadsheet rows. Are you kidding me? ERO periodically analyzes the DOJ system, but there's no automated process. And so it's just, I guess, government incompetence. But they also don't even follow the guidance. Although the guidance refers to this, there's no formal process. It's all structured incompetence so that they can have missing kids. It's structured incompetence so that they can have Trump shot in the head, right? It's structured incompetence so the border can be wide open so they can get a bunch of voters. And same thing with all the court cases and the forms. And for example, do you think the Social Security Administration agency is now checking all those numbers and spitting out ballots that are bad? No. They can't even track the kids, the minor kids. According to officials, there's no authority over the minors beyond managing their immigration cases. So it's like, it's not our problem. ICE personnel at 2 field offices told us this. They said, yeah, we've identified kids. So the ICE personnel have even identified them. They say, we found kids in unsafe conditions, probably being exploited, worked, trafficked, whatever, but we can't even do anything about it. One ICE officer expressed concern with not being able to take action in a case involving a minor whose sponsor claimed the minor was in an inappropriate relationship with her husband. Sick! According to HHS, contractors are responsible for this. Contractors are responsible for evaluations and checks. Officers may see a minor under 14. Ugh. All right, so based on our audit work and according to ICE officials, minors who did not appear in immigration court are considered more at risk of trafficking, exploitation, and forced labor. And there's 291,000 missing kids. And those kids, it's the law of big numbers. So a percentage of those kids are going to end up in one of these 3 categories, if not dead. Immigration court hearings, and they're going to lecture us about being inhumane and not caring about people, okay? This is the problem. The government creates more problems than they solve, and there's a lot more than just this, but immigration court hearings are often ICE's only opportunity to observe and screen minors for trafficking, but now they don't have that filter, so much more are being trafficked. By not issuing NTAs to all minors, ICE limits its chances of having contact with them and a possibility to verify their safety. So when ICE does not share this information, people who do not appear, we can't do wellness checks. We can't stop people from being trafficked. Without an ability to monitor these locations, ICE has no assurance that minors are safe from trafficking. Okay, this is a critical sentence. Without an ability to monitor the location and the status of the minors, ICE has no assurance that they're safe from trafficking, exploitation, or forced labor. So several 100,000 kids, by their count, it's probably, well over 1 million, if I had to guess. And, for those of us who have more, I would say, familiar understanding of the darkness and the evil side of this planet, we, I think, can see very clearly what this document is telling us. This document is not telling us that we just have some kids that got lost at a mall, okay? Where'd their mom go? At a Costco or something, all right? Which is, itself a horrific thought even, that alone, if it's your kid. But here, we're seeing that they have, in black and white, reported that there's human trafficking going on at our southern border at a scale unlike anything, that you can even fathom. Hundreds of thousands and entire states worth of kids coming across the border, being trafficked, and then the Democratic Party will lecture us about being bigots and racists or something. The party that enables this. They're the party that wants more people to come across, creating conditions for that to happen, saying that they're all asylees and this is all normal governance. And then we have hundreds of thousands of kids who are just missing. Seems like maybe they know about that. Maybe there's an ulterior motive behind some of this stuff. It's sick and disgusting.